You're listening to Diva Tonight with Carleen Humphrey, a relationship podcast with a focus on life, love, and friendship. This is the space where real conversations happen, stories are shared, and women in their 40s feel seen, heard, and inspired. Welcome to Diva Tonight.
Hi, I'm Carleen, and this is Diva Tonight. I have with me my aunt, Liliana Guadagnoli, and she is here to talk about her journey through life and a little bit about her experiences and just about her background and being an entrepreneur. She's the author of this one lovely book that she sent me, Sights and Sighs, a collection of poetry by Donato and Liliana. And she also has an excerpt in this book here, almost 365 empowering stories. And Liliana has a chapter in there about who she is. And so, Liliana, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Carleen, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be able to share my experiences with others, and sometimes people don't even have who to go to turn to, and so hopefully some of my ideas today will open and broaden their perspective on where they can go, perhaps, or what they can do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Before we get started, were you born here in Canada or were you born in Italy?
I was born in Rome, the capital of Italy. My parents moved there because my dad was working near the Vatican. And they then decided to come to the land of opportunity over here in Canada. And I was only 15 months. I was a baby, really, a young toddler. And my parents told me the stories of, being on the ship for 3 weeks. They were both sick from motion sickness. And this couple from the States came. They were on the boat and they came knocking at the door every time there was a meal. And they'd pick me up and bring me to eat and come back. So there's been a lot of lessons and a lot of experiences. Okay, I don't remember that part when I was small, but, I grew up in Toronto area, GTA, and now I'm in Aurora. So it's a journey. It's just like a book with chapters, right? And that's exactly how it is. Our lives are like that.
Yeah, my favorite saying is, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And so,
of course,
yeah, I mean, you came, you went, you saw, and now you're thriving, right? So,
yes.
What have you learned about your relationships from past to present, like your relationship with your family and with your friends?
You pick and choose your friends, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, and I will say this too, sometimes your friends are closer to you than your own family. And family sometimes may not see your own perspective, right? And so I've picked my friends throughout my journey. I've let go of friends that were not of my, I don't want to say liking, but aren't vibrating at the same energy as I am. And people don't understand, like somebody can walk right up to you and say, hey, we really get along, and then you could say that person is not going to be my friend because they pick things up, an event. So that's what I've learned through my journey. I picked and choose my friends who I can relate with, who I can rely on. And that's really important in life. You can't be on your own. And for example, I can go to my mom for advice at the time. I was able to go to her, and sometimes I was not able to. So I knew who I could go to and speak freely and get the information that I needed. So like I said, some people in life, they come for a day, a week, a season. We all know that saying, right? And so those that stay with you are very precious. I have a friend who was my neighbor when I was growing up. I think we were 8 or 9 years old. We went to high school. And then she went to university. I did some university courses too. Do you know, to this day, we are still friends? Like, that to me is something I cherish. I just love it, And we both share milestones in life, and it's so, so, so important. to have that group of friends that you can rely on and who can rely on you. And it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I can understand that because I have a friend that I've known since grade 2. And, you say you can see certain things in people. And like, I didn't think like we'd be friends into the future. I could not forecast that. But she's always been so artistic. And I'm like, she's either going to be a director or something along those lines. So she works in TV now, but like she's my designer. And so she's designed the logo and everything to do with this show, Diva Tonight. So it's interesting who you make friends with. Like you just never know who's going to help you along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they could be friends from school, like in my case. There could be friends from work. And the same thing. We've been friends since we were in our early 20s, and we still are in contact. You meet people, in my case, those that are highly spiritual, intuitive, So I don't want to say they're different types of people, but these are people that share with you, or I share with them, what's happening, in my life. And it's just so important to have that group of people.
Yeah. So in your life, you've had a change in career, like you've had various careers, right? You've worked at York University.
Yes.
And you've worked in multi-level marketing and you've changed careers. So did you know that you were going to work at York? Like, was that your plan?
Well, I think they still have this program. It's a program where businesses recruit students to work with them. It's a work-study program, right? It's a 3-month thing. I think they still have it, and I think it's just absolutely amazing. So I went to York University. I can't remember which department it was, psychology or something. Any event. So I liked it so much that at the end of my school year, I applied. I got hired. And since then, I was at York for like 40 years. So I went to various departments. I even had an opportunity to train on computers, which never thought it was going to happen. But in the early 1980s, that's when the computers started coming out. And that's where I was then asked to work and to teach others, because those and the techies have their own language. And it was so hard for us to understand them. And it came so natural to me. Anyway, so that's what happened. So for 40 years I was there. And then I had some part-time positions, like being an entrepreneur in, like you said, it was a multi-level company, from there, I learned you need to learn things if you want to be an entrepreneur. Okay. And you're always gravitated to something you love. And that's what happened with me. And then I met someone who I will speak more about her if you allow me later. She's the one that actually developed me into my spirituality, into my knowledge, expanding my intuitive skills, So then I got to learn and make friends with other people, entrepreneurs, right? And one of them is the books that I'm in, the 2-time best-selling author on empowering women to succeed, and the other one, almost 365 days. So you grow your group of people that you associate with. And I think that's something that if somebody has in mind that they want to go through a certain pathway in their life, then get to meet people that are in that field so they know better how to express themselves, how it really works. Okay. So that's what happened. Then I took early retirement from York University about 10 or 11 years now. And that's
that was 2010, 2011?
Yeah, around there. Mm-hmm. And so the person I went into business with, her name is Maria Grazia Bevilacqua. We call her MG for short. And we went into business together for about 3 years. And we both felt, because we're both intuitive, we felt that it was not a good match for us. But let me tell you, I learned a lot through all that time. Like, she's the one that actually trained me more, because I didn't have anyone in the spiritual world to be able to expand my knowledge in that area. Anyway, so once we left the business that we were both in, I then went into my own business. which I still have. And there's different things that I do in that business too, like being a spiritual coach. And I'm also a Reiki master, and I work with a lot of people. So that's how things evolved.
Yeah. So, you say it's good to like network with people that
Yes.
are like-minded. So how did you meet Maria Guazia, MG? How were you able to like network with her, start the business? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously being at the right place in the right time too, right?
That's right. That's right. My relationship with my husband at the time wasn't working well, and I felt that I was always alone. And so I found other things to occupy my time. And one of them was being on a director's board with our social club. And then I became president for 1 year in that social club in 2002. And then when I finished that, I went into an umbrella association called the Lazio Federation. It's an area of Italy, and they have a lot of these organizations in the city, right? And so being the vice president of this Lazio Federation, that involves all the presidents of each of the different clubs within Toronto and GTA, right? So one of the main things is that the Lazio Federation includes all the presidents of these social clubs. And if a president can't go, then they appoint someone else on the board to go on their behalf. And in this particular evening, there was the elections for the Lazio Federation. And she then was elected in to be part of the board of the Lazio Federation. Now, from that, I got to know her a little bit more. Obviously, when you're on committees and stuff, meetings every month or bi-weekly, whatever the case is, you get to know people. And that's where I discovered her gifts, right? Yeah. And I said, okay, maybe, we can expand on that. And that's what we did. And so she was training and teaching me how to use the skills that I didn't know how to develop. And from there, we became best friends. I've known her now for 18 years. Okay. And she's my go-to person now if I have any questions on a spiritual level, on a life path changes, So she's my person to go to for that. And that's how I got to meet her. And we've done a lot of things together. So her Italian is impeccable because she left here when she was 12 years old. Her dad brought their siblings to Italy. The father got remarried because the mom passed away when she was 12. And so she grew up there for about 10 to 15 years. I had a daughter, and then she wanted to come back here, whereas her husband at the time didn't want to. And so she just picked up and left. So this is what I mean about women taking on the role of, empowerment and being able to do what your heart leads you to. So she came back here, and that's how her Italian was really great, And so when I was the president, we had invited some youth from Italy that were coming here. And she was sort of like my entrepreneur, translator I met. That's how things grew. And she did the same things I used to do at the university, putting on conferences, workshops and stuff. So we kind of were hand in hand when it came to doing any kind of organization. So, yeah. So that's how I got to meet her, how, she helped me in my life. And that's why I say I'm sharing this only because that's what helped me. And it may help someone else who may be in the same situation as I was, not knowing who to turn to or what to do.
So, I mean, we are going to talk about that because we haven't really gotten to the nitty gritty. But another thing that's really important is there's a person behind who you are, because you're a mom, you were a wife, and you have 2 kids, which are my cousins, Maria and Lorenzo. And so you were married. And so how long were you married for?
30 years.
I know when I hear you say that, I'm just like, I didn't realize how long, because I mean, I know you through marriage, and like, I just remember going to Nona's house. It's crazy. Sometimes I remember little things that Nona would get mad at me for. Yeah. In Italian families, like food is everything. And I remember Nona, like, if I made up my face just a little bit, Liliana, she'd be like, like? And I'm like, no, it's good, but you're married for 30 years, and obviously there were some high moments and low moments and moments, where you felt like this might be time to part ways, right? And so what made you decide to do that?
I just want to bring back to
the
empowering women to succeed bounce. I wrote my journey there because not only is it a healing point, it's also to show others that may be going through the same thing, that, hey, it's what you want in life to be able to do that. Okay. Now, about 15 years into the marriage, I knew it wasn't working the way I had thought. So, by the way, the title of that chapter was Until Death Do Us Part. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's just, I needed to have a good title, of that chapter. And, it suits it. Now, what I want to say is until death do us apart. Nowadays, it's not death. It's just things don't work, and so you part with separate ways, right? Yeah. So 15 years into the marriage, I said, okay, this is not working the way I wanted to. My husband at the time wanted to be with his friends. He'd go to the club or the bar, as they call it today, play cards with his friends. And, we both worked during the day. So I'd come home and I wanted to be with my husband. And he wasn't there. Like, he'd have a dinner and then he'd rush off. So the kids kind of grew with me. Okay. And I said to myself, this isn't working. So I tried to see what I could do. I wasn't as educated as I was when I actually did leave. Okay. And this is what I'm telling the audience. Get your ducks put in a row, and take the actions you need to take. Don't listen to other people, what they say to you, and of course, if you still want to be in that marriage, then by all means, get help. Okay. Just don't be on your own. And so I wasn't able to figure things out on my own. I wasn't making a lot of income. Then you have to worry about finding a place to stay and so forth, right? So I made a decision at that point to say, okay, when my son turns 18, he'll be an adult, and then I'll leave. And so to that date, it was after our 30th anniversary, to that date, what I did, and this is something I want to tell everybody too, always make sure you have a resource fund for emergencies. And that's what I learned from my mom. And I couldn't understand. My dad would give her the money to go put it in the bank or whatever it was, and she would take some of that money and store it somewhere else. Okay? He had no clue about it, and I said, you know what? That doesn't sound bad. Lo and behold, did I know I would have needed it? But you have a resource funds there available for you if you actually need an emergency. You don't have to tell everybody. Everybody thinks, you have to tell your spouse that you've got some money aside. I didn't. I learned from my mom. Oh, yes. I forgot to mention something important. After about the first 15 years, I said to my husband, I want to separate. He just laughed it off. You know why? Because Italians don't separate. You deal with this situation. So I was the one that broke the generational curse, that you can't divorce, or separate, which was my case. And he says, go ahead, go try it. And that's where I made the decision. I'll wait till my son was about 18. So at that point, I had a bit more resources. I knew which lawyer to go to, who knew the family law. This is so important to know. She would be guiding me, what I had to do. And it was just phenomenal. It's like you need someone who's an expert in the field to be able to guide you, coach you, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that. And she said, okay, let's give him the papers. There's usually a reconciliation somewhere along the line to see if maybe things can work or whatever, right? But in any event, he didn't think I was going to go through with it. It took almost 2 years before he could sign the freaking papers. Sorry, you can blue.
No, that's fine. No. You can say freaking papers.
It took so long. And half of the things, well, I shouldn't say half. Some of the things I was paying myself, because you need to get finance records to show, especially if you're an entrepreneur. My husband was in his own business, so I had access to his finances because I was working temporarily, right? And so some of the worth of some of the things we had in the house were very high because he liked doing things that he liked. And
like he had his hobbies, right? Everybody
yeah,
has
a lot of hobbies. Yeah. And so he said, okay, go ahead and do it. Anyway, when he realized that I was being serious about it, he still didn't believe it. We decided to get a separation because I didn't know what's the difference. I have a separation or I have to divorce. You know what the lawyer said to me? A divorce gives you the opportunity to remarry. I said, oh, really? After 50 years, you think I'm going to go get married after all this? If I'm going to be with someone, I'll live with them. And a lot of people are doing that now, so who cares? I wasn't going to spend more money. So you have to really do a little bit of research as to what you want to do.
Season 4 of Diva Tonight brings you incredible guests, honest conversations, real experiences, and lessons we can all take with us. Diva Tonight, glamour for your ears.
I just want to go back a sec. There's so many stories in between, and you need to understand them in order to know how I got to where I did get. I was in a car accident in 2008, and that brought a lot of consequences in my physique and my mental state and so forth, right? So we had lawyers for that too.
Why did you have lawyers for that?
Because in order for it to be settled, to get something for it, for the pain and suffering, lawyers have to deal with it. We would not know what to have done with that. So it took 2 years as well. And so in the meantime, my daughter had issues right on the onset of the accident. Mine started showing up 8 months later. And this is why they always say to people in accidents, don't just sign papers off that you're okay. You need to give it time. And thank God I did. I had to have 2 surgeries, a back surgery. My sciatica was really bad. And then I had a hip replacement. And that hip replacement, they were scheduled 3 months apart. And I don't know how other people think, but I figured, you're having a surgery and things are just going to go back to normal. It doesn't just happen like that. Okay. So when I had the back surgery, this was in July, and the other one for the hip replacement was October. I had a pinched nerve, which is sciatica, and I went through hell. Physically, mentally, everything. I was on Percocets, a lot of drugs, My family was not supportive. My daughter, she was dealing with her own issues, so I couldn't rely on her, right? So there was really no one, and I couldn't walk or stand or lie down for long periods of time, for those of you that may have had sciatica before. And so when the surgery happened, I thought, the next day, everything's good. And then what happened, 3 weeks later, it all came back, and I got upset. I said, maybe what the doctor specialist didn't work. Apparently, I was told, and again, these are things that you pick up as you're in situations. He said to me, if it took you 2 years to get to where you are, it's going to take 2 years for you to get to a certain state, to be able to manage your life, right? And I said, so that's what it is. Anyway, so when I went home, I couldn't go up and down the 15 stairs flight upstairs. I was kind of confined in my room. Okay. So whoever was around would bring me some food. Instead of me going downstairs, up and down the stairs, they'd bring me food. And my daughter at one point was trying to bring some lunch to me, and I had to wait for her, and I couldn't. Because when you're on Percocets or heavy duty drugs, right, you need to eat. Otherwise, there's going to be a hole put in your stomach. So when she came, I had something, but then I said to myself, I can't go through this every single day. And so one day I woke up and I said, okay, Liliana, it's time to take the plunge, really. So it took me so long, almost 20 minutes to get downstairs those 15 stairs, because I would take one step, take a breather, and then go again. So I started doing that, and I kind of pushed myself to the point where, you can do it. I was giving positive affirmations to myself.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, okay, this is not going to work when I have my hip replacement. It's not going to work. So I went to my parents, I asked my parents, can I move in with you? And they absolutely, they were there, open hands and everything. Let me tell you, when I went to my parents after I had my hip replacement, I was there for 3 months. And that's when I say, put all your ducks in a row. I knew that the morning that I was going for my hip replacement, I was not going to go back to my own home. And that was my put your ducks in a row. God sometimes, does things for you and you have to wake up, either take it or leave it, and I took it. That's how I left. Okay.
Yeah.
And he always thought I was going to go back. And I said, I'm sorry. And then on December.
So you're saying that the opportunity for you to leave came up after you had taken care of like your health in terms of like getting all this after the accident. So something traumatic happened. And obviously you didn't plan for that to happen. Had that not happened, would you have left in 2008?
I think it was in 2010. I may have taken a different course of action. Okay. I would have still gone to the lawyers. Okay.
Right.
And she would have advised otherwise. And she may have even suggested, okay, move out, go to an apartment, get an apartment or something, So I was at the beck and call of my lawyer at the time. And so, like I said, it was enough for me. It was enough. Okay. And when I left the house, it was a lot of negative energy. And when I went to my parents, it was like a breath of sunshine. It's like day and night. I don't know if I can describe it.
But you were in pain too, right?
I was in pain. Yes. Yes. And so it was a time in my life where I needed somebody to kind of take care of me, to be able to convalesce without having interruptions from others, So my parents were 80 at the time, and bless their souls. If it wasn't for them, that would not have happened, So that's why I say to the viewers, make sure you know what you want and stick to it. I've had people saying, don't leave, try to work it out. It's like, hello. It's like you're not living with this person. You don't know what I'm going through. So don't let others influence you. In your heart, what does your heart say? That's what you should follow. It was so hard to actually take action. And that's the one thing in life, whether it's relationship, whether it's work or whatever it is, you're still wanting to be an entrepreneur. Take the necessary actions and make sure that you follow through with it. That's my advice.
Yeah. It sounds to me like you took the necessary steps, but you kind of need a village too to help you along the way.
Course.
Like, a support system, because I'm not a product of divorce, so I don't know what that's like. But I think the one thing you see it in a lot of movies in Hollywood, and like divorce can be like the hardest thing, emotionally, especially because you've been with that person for such a long time. Like you got married to them, you had a family, you've been through so many trials and tribulations. And so I guess what gave you that push to do it?
Yeah, what gave me the push was I couldn't take living like that anymore. I was determined. No matter what it took, I was going to leave. How I got there,
Were your parents?
My parents were very supportive.
They were?
Yes.
Oh, they were.
I had friends too that were very supportive,
Yeah.
And, my parents understood if things don't work out, just leave, I had friends too that were very supportive. So you're right. You need a village to help you.
You know what? Like I remember having another guest on the show, and she got divorced. Someone I went to high school with, and she's been on the show, and she's so vulnerable that she shared this. And she said, Carlene, it was so hard. I had to send an email to all my friends and family. I think they were only married for a year or two, and it was just, she tried everything. But I think she's better for it, because obviously the person that she's with now is way better for her. But I think it's that devastation, because you're like, if you're the oldest child, I feel like you're letting your parents down, your there's this added pressure to do the right thing, to excel in every facet of your life, so that if something doesn't pan out, you're like, oh my gosh, I did it again, like it's all on you. I think it's rests on your shoulders, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you how this relationship ended, right? I mean, it ended, and it wasn't until I ended he realized that he was at fault. And he said, come back, I'll do anything you want. I'll give you your freedom. I said, well, I've already moved out. Moving back is just going to put me back in the same situation. So the first Christmas, my kids, they were 18 and 28. And so they said, Ma, now where are we going to go? To Dad's or your place? And so we did have a relationship with my husband. And what we did, and people are still amazed at how we continue with this relationship. We live in separate homes. Okay. We visit each other once in a while, which is fine, even for the grandkids now, right? And when there's social events, clubs and stuff, they have dinners, they have whatever, Doesn't he still invite me? And I go, okay, I'll go. And people think that we're back together. I said, that's not going to happen. Because people see things and they assume, but people actually pride us for keeping this type of relationship, and I said, it works for me. I mean, I'm not suggesting to everybody else who is thinking of divorce or separation, it may work for you, but try it on, but I'm just saying it's a very interesting relationship.
Yeah, I remember the last birthday party and you
That's right.
and Donato there. So yeah, I think it's good. It's good though that you guys are able to do that.
Yeah.
Because Italian families, there's always that togetherness. And I think
it's right.
What's hard is when the grandmother, when Nona passed away, that's when you saw everything change the dynamic, right? So that
she's
you
the
hold
one that held everything together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you realize it. I'm just like, wow, she really did bring everybody together. So you've been divorced now for quite some time. And so
we're separated.
We're separated.
I didn't go spend more money for a divorce. No.
No. Now that you've moved on from that part of your life and you're focusing on new things, and for the one woman who's listening, who's in her 40s or she's dealing with a challenge in her life, maybe she is thinking of going through divorce and making that plan. What is your advice?
My advice is, and I mentioned this earlier, your heart speaks to you. Follow your heart.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Don't take in what other people say or what you should do or not do, because it doesn't always work. What they suggest may be for them and not for you. So follow your heart. Get all your ducks in a row. You need to speak to a lawyer or someone to get information. Go ahead. He or she, as a lawyer, can guide you in what you need to do. They will give you some advice. They may even suggest, going to, what is it called, where you go to stay.
Like a hostel, or you mean like a shelter?
Shelter, that's what it is.
Yeah.
They may suggest that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're going through something the first time, you don't know it's really by experience. Okay. And it's so important to get advice from legal, and then based on what they tell you, based on what your heart tells you to follow, just go for it. Don't start asking too many people. Like I said, they all have their own opinions, and you're not going to move out if that's what your intention is. So the other thing is you need some kind of finances. I don't know how individuals are how they use their finances if they're married, right? Sometimes they have joint accounts. Sometimes you can have separate accounts. And I gave you an example of what I learned from my mom. And that was one way of me doing it. I asked others who may have gone through a divorce, But what's important is have some funds, emergency funds aside, okay? So that you can act on things quickly. If you need to move out, you need to move in with somebody else, or find a place, a rental place, If you've got small kids, you have to also think of them. Or they come with you, obviously. Anyway, there's a lot of things you need to get answers for before you actually make the move. And it won't happen overnight unless you're being abused or something. Then it's a different story. Okay. So that's what I want to say to anybody at any age. I was a little bit more experienced because of my age, 30 years into our marriage. It's kind of unheard of at that time. Like I said, I broke the generational curse, that you shouldn't divorce, but I did it. And then so many people came after me and asked me how I did it. Well, because I was persistent, right? So again, have some finances as a backup. Find out what's happening to the kids. If they're small, most likely they will go with the mom. Okay. And it could be the other way around. Most likely they may go with the father, whatever the situation is in that marriage. So just make sure you get all your information on hand and then take the appropriate actions to follow. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely some great advice there. I think it's definitely something, well, to consider for sure. I feel like it's always planning ahead, right?
Yes,
And
it
so,
is.
yeah. With that being said, we always plan ahead and we always move forward. And so
Yeah.
you are a spiritual coach and Reiki master. Did I say that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So when it comes to that, is that something that's obviously you have retreats that you do? And
Yes. Yeah.
this is now your new focus in life in terms of your career path, right? And so what got you interested in that part of spirituality and faith?
My life path was helping others. And this was the best segue to go into, helping others through retreats. You need to bring people together away from their home because, we all get distracted when you're trying to do something, right? And we've had quite a lot of success because a lot of people don't know who to turn to. And these retreats help people to focus on what they want in life, what's actually stopping them, which is so important, of getting what they want to accomplish in life. And so these things, we guide them, okay, in what it is that we do over a weekend, right? And that is an opening, a gateway for them to discover for themselves what's actually stopping them. And once you can put the past in the past, then there's doors that open up for them, whether it's in relationship, whether it's in work or life in general, right? And once they've discovered that and know how to deal with things, then everything just goes a bit smoother. I don't know if I have the opportunity now. Our first 2026 retreat, we're having it on May 30th and 31st. Okay. We have Anoop Damoon. He is a elemental rhythm breathwork experience person. And through his experience, people get into a state of self-awareness and know what it is that's stopping them as well. Okay. So I'm putting on a retreat with him. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. And the dates I gave you. And if you're interested, you can go to the website. It's llgenterprises.ca. So it's LLG Enterprises, all one word, enterprises.ca. And go there. It will be advertised on there. And you want to register, just send me a link that's on there and we can get together. And I hope you find the time to be able to do this and find out what's in your way of you achieving all your goals in life. And I've had so many reviews from people and I have a Google review, but in any event, you can do that at a later date. But I just wanted to give you the opportunity to know there's one coming up. And what it's going to be about breath work. And it's just amazing. We're going to be in Aboriginal sacred lands. And the energy there is so high. That's one of my go-to places when I want to relax and just be myself, So, yeah, it's in Penetanguishene, just north of Midland. So it's an awesome time. You should come too.
Yeah. I know. I'm thinking, maybe I will plan for that. I've done some mindfulness and it's interesting. As a scattered mind, I'm very scattered in my thoughts and mindfulness does help. And you don't realize until you're at a silent retreat. I just had one not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. The silent retreat. I've done it twice and I find every time I do one, it's like an enlightenment in a way. Or
that's right.
It just
Absolutely.
helps me figure, it quiets the thoughts in your mind and then it awakens things, especially where it is. Because school has always been my happy place. And I find the fact that it's at a church, which used to be a native school. And so the first time I did it, I was like, wow, like I'm seeing all the memories that like you put in the very back of your mind. And so to relate to what you're saying with the retreat, that when you're away from everything, like the everyday, the busyness of life, that's when you quiet your thoughts and figure things out, like what you're supposed to do or, just the plans,
our brain is like the hard drive of a computer.
Right? Yes.
And the older you get, the more stuff is in there. And and your brain goes from left to right, center, up and down. It's like you need to quieten it down. You need to be able to relax. And I suggest if everybody can start off with 5-10 minutes in the morning and at night before you go to bed, in the morning when you wake up, before you do anything, it actually sets the tone for your day. And yeah, some people may not know how to meditate, and do whatever you have to do. If you can come, that'd be awesome. We will teach you. And there's a lot of things that we learn off of the participants too. Okay. So don't get that. It's a one-way thing. It's just that we nourish your brain to be able to think in a way that will stop all that chatter in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. Quiet the thoughts, the thoughts in the thoughtscape.
Of course. And how many times something happens and all of a sudden your brain goes, oh yeah, I remember this, So
what was I supposed to be doing? Or it's like, as you get older, I'm like, wait, I was before that, like even when you're at work, it's like, wait a minute, what was I supposed to be doing? But anyways, yes. So much to talk about, but this is amazing. The retreat coming up. So definitely llgenterprises.com, you said, or is it
ca.ca?
And check that out. I'm Carlene, and this is Diva Tonight with Liliana Guadagnoli. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been an interesting experience, to say the least.
Absolutely.
I'm Carlene, and this is Diva Tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Diva Tonight. Follow us on Instagram at Diva on the Radio. That's Diva with 2 I's. And don't forget to follow us on TikTok at Diva on the Radio for more clips and conversations you'll love. Want to share your thoughts or send us a message? Text us anytime at divatonight.buzzsprout.com. Until next time, stay fabulous.